Today I want to talk about mindset and some limiting beliefs that we tend to have as entrepreneurs that hold us back. The reason I want to talk about this is because I was just having a conversation with someone last week who's trying to get their business going, and I offered a couple of suggestions on what they could do, and they kind of had answers for everything. They had reasons why this wouldn't work and that wouldn't work, and at the end of it, I'm sure we've all had that experience where after a couple of rounds of that, we're like, well, maybe try this, and they kind of say, no, I can't because of this, I can't because of that. It's like, well, look, I can't talk you into anything. I can't convince you of anything that you're not open to. And we do that to ourselves all the time. I do that to myself. We all do it. Alex Hormozi has a saying that I really like, that if you're stuck in business, it's one of three things. It's either the market, which it's usually not the market, or it's your skills, which need to be upgraded, which could be the case, or it's your mindset and your own limiting beliefs that are keeping you from succeeding. And I like that because I think that a lot of us will dismiss the mindset stuff because it's not tangible and it's hard to say, like, well, if I have a good mindset, I'm going to succeed. That's not how it works. We're going to succeed because of the things that we do, but the mindset can be a roadblock. It can be what keeps us from doing those things that we need to do in order to find success in our businesses. And I think that for this gentleman who I was talking to, he had such a limiting mindset that he couldn't see what was objective reality. Like, reality is what it is, but we don't always see it for what it is. So how we perceive it is our reality. And there's a story that I think illustrates that perfectly. I drive my kids to school every single morning, and one morning last year, my daughter announced that there had been, 6 yellow cars between our home and school. And she started doing this every single day. She would count the number of yellow cars, and a great day there would be 8 yellow cars, bad day, 4 yellow cars, whatever. But she was noticing these every single day. I was oblivious to yellow cars. I wasn't paying any attention to yellow cars. If you had just asked me on that day how many yellow cars we had passed, I would probably say 0. I would have remembered 0, maybe 1. But noticing it, we see and we perceive what we choose to, what we look for. And our minds otherwise will completely limit the things that we see and the way that we see the world. And for, again, this gentleman, he doesn't have a legal right to work in the United States. He's legally here, but he doesn't have a legal right to work. And that is one of these major factors where, like, there are ways around that. I have clients who are millionaires who are not even legally in the United States, but have been here for decades and are working and have multi-million-dollar businesses. There are ways around it, but you won't see those ways around whatever your challenges are unless you're choosing to look for it. And the mindset is what keeps us from doing that. So I wanted to talk today about 3 limiting beliefs that we often have as entrepreneurs that keep us down. And this is especially geared for newer entrepreneurs who are stuck kind of at the beginning stages of their businesses. And then 2 ways that we can overcome those limiting beliefs, 2 things that we can do specifically. So the 3 things are, first, a general fear of making decisions. And that is especially true when it comes to money. As employees, most of us that have come from being employees, we are accustomed to thinking that the income is whatever it is, and the only way that we're going to get ahead is by controlling what we spend. So then as we graduate into entrepreneurship, we are very nervous about spending money. And we are often not good about recognizing when we need to spend money. And the way that I think about entrepreneurship, the way that I've learned to think about it, is that there are so many ways to make money as entrepreneurs, almost infinite ways to make money. The thing that's holding us back from making money is usually our skills, sometimes our mindset. It's usually us. And if we can spend money in order to open up a bottleneck, whether that's us, whether it's something that we're not particularly skilled at, whether it's something that's just limiting us in our business, spending money to open up bottlenecks will return more money to us. And there's kind of a flow of money. And I think of it kind of like a sailboat, where the wind doesn't even have to be blowing in the direction that the sailboat wants to go, but you can use your sails, and as long as there's wind and as long as there's movement, you use your sails and you use your rudder, and you can kind of get in the direction where you want to go. But there has to be movement. And that's the way that it is with money and with decisions. It's okay to spend money on something that doesn't work. It's okay to make decisions that are wrong decisions. But making them quickly, spending money, moving, that allows us to have flow, and that flow is what creates income for us. That doesn't mean that every dollar spent will be wise, and it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be careful. But the fear of making a decision that keeps us from making a decision is what oftentimes is holding us back. The second limiting belief is that everything feels personal. And I remember this from when I was just starting my firm, and every time I would have someone who didn't decide to work with me or who went somewhere else, it felt so deeply personal. And I remembered again when I got a negative review on Google, and it felt so deeply personal. It tore me out of my routine. All these things would tear me out of my routine, and I would lose a whole day and sometimes 2 days because it felt like personal attacks on me, like reflections on me. And for this, I love the book, The War of Art, where he talks about how our ego gets in the way of us creating things, creating art, creating a business, which is our art. And the need to separate that out and to recognize our role as professionals within the thing that we're creating, and that is separate from us as individuals, and that we can have individual value and worth outside of our business. And that's easy to think about logically, it's harder to do. But I'm going to talk about it in one of the next steps regarding how we can overcome these limiting beliefs. And the third limiting belief is that we should be happy all the time. That when we're on this entrepreneurial journey, we should only be doing things that fulfill us and bring us joy. And that is simply not true. Entrepreneurship is not a bed of roses. Life is not a bed of roses. If we think about all the things that are great in the world today and how generally unhappy we all often are, we're programmed that way. As human beings, we're programmed to be dissatisfied. That's what pushes us to get better. And there's an idea that I love, and there are many, many quotes around this, but the concept is that we don't grow until we're uncomfortable. It is that discomfort that challenges us to grow and pushes us to develop solutions and become better and become stronger so that we don't have to face that same kind of discomfort again. And we need to embrace that as entrepreneurs because it is 100% part of this journey. And in my experience, it never goes away. We can get better at managing it, but there's always going to be stress. There's always going to be this balancing of long-term optimism with the short-term fear that everything's going to fall apart tomorrow. That's just the reality of it. And if we can learn some of the solutions, we can become mentally and emotionally stronger to overcome that. But we have to wipe out the expectation that we're just going to be happy all the time and only do things that we love. That's just not entrepreneurship, and it's not life. So how do we fix it? I personally have found that two main habits and activities have helped me overcome these three limiting beliefs that I've talked about. The first one is embracing silence and boredom as a vehicle for reflection and an ability to get mental clarity. And this is hard for me because I'm almost always distracted. I guess probably like the rest of us, always reaching for my phone, always having a podcast going, always something going on. Cal Newport talks about that idea that we can never be bored. But as I have made the intention to put my phone away, to leave space where I am bored, where I have that stimulus to listen to something or to watch something, and I just instead leave the moment in silence. I allow myself the space to have these mental breakthroughs and these mental epiphanies and to have some of the conversations with myself in my own mind that I wouldn't have otherwise if I was just escaping into having something plugged in and feeding into my mind. And it's tough because probably 97% of the time, it's just boredom. There's nothing there. There are no epiphanies. There's no value gained. It's just boredom. But it's that 3%, and I'm just picking a number, of course, but it's that minority of the time where we have deep thoughts, where we have realizations that allows us to overcome some of these limiting beliefs and see the world as it really is and to become clear on what is happening around us and what we need to do. And the other thing that goes right with that, this idea of embracing the boredom and the silence for reflection, is that writing helps a lot. Something that I have found myself be of a lot of benefit to actually write down whatever it is I'm thinking or feeling or struggling with, and then to start writing out the solution. That helps me to think a little bit more structured and helps me get to an answer a little bit more efficiently. And the second solution to these limiting beliefs is to just lean in and to embrace fast decisions and to be aggressive instead of passive. I would rather make a wrong decision, but make it and go and find out later that it's wrong than sit and not make any decision. Because even though that one decision might be right, maybe I make 5 decisions in the time that I would otherwise just be sitting there not making any. And 2 of them might be wrong, but 3 might be right. Or 4 of them might be wrong, but 1's right. And that power of that single decision that's right overcomes all the wrong ones. And that's the beauty of entrepreneurship, that once we get a couple things right, there's upside in entrepreneurship that just doesn't exist in ordinary life for employees. And we have to be able to create that movement and create that flow in order to get the right thing right. And that means trying stuff, it means failing, and it means kind of patting down our ego and saying it's okay to fail. That's just part of the game. And we have to be okay with that. We have to understand that we're still worth something as people, even when we fail, but we've got to go for it. We've got to move and move fast, make decisions, spend the money that we need to overcome whatever bottleneck we're facing, and just keep the boat moving. And those are my thoughts. If we can do those 2 things, embracing the silence and really leaving time for us to reflect and understand what's going on around us, and then lean in and make decisions and be proactive and make a conscious effort to do that, then we can overcome these limiting beliefs and we can ultimately hit those few right points that will help us get over the next hump. I hope that helps.